What's up, guys? It's your buddy Tyler coming at you with a new video, and I wanted to do this video because I've been talking a lot about the Ghosts and Goblins series by Capcom lately, because the new game is out, Ghosts and Goblins Resurrection. I haven't played it yet, but just the mere fact that the game is out has really got me going down nostalgia lane. In fact, the last episode I put out of my retro life was all about my life story with this series, particularly the original game, Ghosts and Goblins, the Super Nintendo Super Ghouls and Ghosts game, and the arcade original that we got on our Capcom Generation Sega Saturn import back in 1999. Now, you may have just noticed that there's one game in the series that I did not mention that was a huge game in the series, and that is the original Ghouls and Ghosts on the Sega Genesis, the first sequel in this series. I love this game. I have loved it for years, and it holds a special place in my heart because, one, Sega was heavily involved in its creation, at least the Genesis port of the game, and two, it was my dad's favorite game in the series. We actually owned Super Ghouls and Ghosts before we ever owned Ghouls and Ghosts. Now, Super Ghouls and Ghosts on the Super Nintendo was mind-blowing. It came out at a time in 1992 when the Super Nintendo was still relatively new, and we were hungry. We were hungry for Super Nintendo games in 16-bit glory. And I tell you what, guys, Super Ghouls and Ghosts was one of our favorite games in those early days of the Super Nintendo. By 1993, we were starting to hear about this Ghouls and Ghosts game on the Sega Genesis and noticed that it was different. Now, I think for the longest time, we didn't own it because we thought the Super Nintendo was the same game, or only better. You know, it was Super Ghouls and Ghosts. You know, maybe it was like some sort of upgrade over the original Ghouls and Ghosts on the Sega Genesis. Little did we know it was a completely different game. Super Ghouls and Ghosts is actually the sequel to the Sega Genesis game. And so, yes, we bought the game pre-owned the second we could. Dad saw it in the store one day at EB Games, snatched it, we brought it home, and the rest, as they say, is history. Playing through the game, I can tell you one of the first things we noticed was at the bottom of the screen, it said reprogrammed game by Sega. And come to find out, this was the first major collaboration between Sega and Capcom. And they did a phenomenal job. In fact, Yuji Naka was actually the lead programmer on this game, on this reprogrammed port of Ghouls and Ghosts. With his direction and his leadership, Sega nailed it. And I'm sure it blew Capcom's mind. I mean, you put the arcade version side by side with the Sega Genesis version, and it's really hard to tell the difference. Yeah. So the arcade game might have some extra frames of animation. It's got some more background stuff happening. In particular, you got like the flashes of lightning happening in the background, and there's definitely a lot more background imagery throughout the game. But really, at first glance, if you're not really paying attention, the Sega Genesis looks and plays just like the arcade game. And it was this quality, it was this attention to detail that really won Dad and I over. Even in 1993, by the time we played this game for the first time, you know, it looked incredible in 1993. And by that point, we had, you know, Alien Storm and Golden Axe and a lot of other Sega ports of classic arcade games that they had made. But Ghouls and Ghosts still, it looked so good, you could hardly tell it was an early Sega Genesis title. That's how good it looked. I remember more so than the Super Nintendo game. Dad really latched onto this one. I actually remember the way he would play it. And this is something that really kind of took me by surprise as I was recording the B-roll footage for this video, as I was getting that gameplay footage and traversing my way through the game. I found myself remembering strategies that weren't my own strategies, that were Dad's strategies. I found myself remembering how he would play the game, particularly in stage 3, which is not a stage as a kid that I often got to, but I remember watching with my eyes glued to the TV. I remember watching Dad play this game. He was, a more methodical video game player. Like I would just run through the game. I would run through levels like Sonic the Hedgehog, Super Mario. I was a speed runner before there were speed runners. That was how I played games. That was how my brain was wired when I play video games. But Dad was much more methodical, and he liked games that you could be a little more patient. You could actually kind of creep your way through the game and work your way through it methodically and with strategy. And I remember how he would play. He would kind of inch the character, Sir Arthur. He would kind of inch him forward, killing all the enemies, making sure your path is clear. This was not a game you could just run through. And it was really, really interesting to get that feeling again. Playing it for this video, the recording, it was really special. I think the large appeal for Dad with this series was the fact that it was steeped in horror lore and horror culture. He loved horror movies. He was a big horror movie buff. And so to have a game like this, right up there with Castlevania, even though Castlevania was more my jam than it was Dad's. For some reason, I don't know why, I latched onto Castlevania more. Dad latched onto Ghouls and Ghosts more. That was kind of the way it was for us. But the memories I have with it, in particular the memories of watching Dad play this game and really get far. I remember him getting to the final boss, which literally looks like the devil himself, this giant sprite. It's amazing. One of the coolest, most iconic boss battles I've ever seen in a game, guys, where the final boss looks like Satan sitting in this giant throne, and his legs are coming up and trying to squash you. So cool. I can't even tell you, it's gotta be a top 10 final boss for me, absolutely. It's just so iconic looking. Well, guys, I've spoken a lot today about why Ghouls and Ghosts is such a special game to me. It's also a special game to two friends of mine who I invited on the show today to give us a little insight as to why the game is so special for them. And those two guys are Johnny from Happy Console Gamer and Joe from GameSack. Take it away, Johnny.
Thank you, Tyler, for having me on to talk about a beloved game series, Ghouls and Ghosts, on the Genesis Mega Drive. I first discovered this in 1989. Down the road from me, I had two friends of mine, the Catos, they were brothers, and everyone in the neighborhood was over playing this game on the Genesis, and we sat there, and I just couldn't believe the graphics at the time, because they were arcade graphics at home. And the game was very difficult. I loved the gothic setting, I loved the level design, the monsters, everything in the game was perfect. Yes, I finally got my own copy of the game years later. Now, here's the thing. One of the Cato brothers was getting married. I went and filmed his wedding, and he wanted to pay me for the wedding afterwards, and I said, no, I did that as a gift for you for getting married. I was so thrilled to be there. So he came over a couple of months later with a box of old Sega stuff he was getting rid of, and I got to get the original copy from that household that I played as a kid, Ghouls and Ghosts, right here. What a treasure.
Ghouls and Ghosts has got to be one of my favorite games of all time. I remember them talking about it in the magazines, how it was coming to the Genesis before it launched, and I was stoked, but I had never seen it before. Eventually, before the Genesis launched, I stumbled upon it in an arcade, and I played it, and I was like, wow, okay, this is good. And eventually I got it on cartridge for the Genesis, and yeah, it was pretty hard. But you know what I did? I found the invincibility code in a magazine, and I applied it, and I played through it again and again and again, and I really learned that game. And eventually I stopped playing with the invincibility code turned on, and I was able to get through it on practice, no problem, both times in fact. So I changed it from practice to professional, and I was like, I can do this. And I did do that. I really love the Genesis version. I play through it at least a couple of times every year on professional, both loops through, and it's just a phenomenal game. I love Ghouls and Ghosts. It's the best in the entire franchise. Better than Super Ghouls and Ghosts, way better than any of the Ghosts and Goblins game. Ghouls and Ghosts. And I do realize I said game instead of games. Oh well.
Thanks, guys. I really appreciate you sharing those stories with us today. Definitely go subscribe to Happy Console Gamer and GameSack if you have not already, two of my favorite channels. Ghouls and Ghosts. What an awesome game. What an amazing game that, so many of us have so many, special memories and attachments and reasons we love the game, why it stands out, not just because it's a great game, but because of these cool memories that were formed because of the game. Really, I'd love to know, too, what you think of this series, what you think of this game in particular, the Sega Genesis Ghouls and Ghosts game. Please let me know in the comments below what you think of the game, if you have any cool memories attached to it, or what it means personally to you. I love hearing your stories. And hey, I'm Tyler with My Retro Life, and I'll catch you next time.